If you've been struggling to put together winning weeks in your fantasy hockey leagues, this Sunday waiver wire must-add targets will take your team over the top. Let's tap in and get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Here we go, my fantasy fanatics, and welcome back inside the Fantasy Hockey Lab to the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, Sunday edition, Week 4. Must add waiver wire targets. Before we get there, showing love to the everydayers who continue to hold us down and make us your first listen every single day. We see you and we appreciate you. We do the same for our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook, which today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers visiting FanDuel.com and downloading the app get $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 wager hits. Mr. Roden, good luck to your Sunday NFL picks. I'm going to be throwing down a few of my own. However, it's hockey season in full swing. Week 4, waiver wire. I know I'll speak for myself on this one. I got to be hitting the waiver wire heavy, and I think you mentioned it last week. You don't want to get too far behind the 8 ball, and that means this week could be perhaps the most important one. So who are you looking at? Another spicy weekend of hockey.
Yeah, we're almost a month into the NHL season. Halloween is right around the corner at the end of the week, and then November hits, and we should be seeing some guys come back. Zach Hyman being one of them that I'm really looking forward to, that I have on the IR. But this is a very important week, like you said, Week 4 matchups. Again, you don't want to fall too far behind at this point in the season because it will be an uphill battle if you're at the bottom of your league. However, there are some waiver wire ads that you can make to help your team and your situation. First, I want to suggest some teams to stay away from this week just because of the schedule they have. Florida Panthers, Montreal Canadiens, Seattle Kraken, Utah Mammoth, and Vegas Golden Knights. I am staying away from those 5 teams. They only have 2 games this week each, so not a very good schedule for those 5 teams. However, there are teams that have an abundance of great schedules with 4 games this upcoming week. And I want to start off with a player that we've touched on a little bit. You know, we've touched on lightly, but the way he's played and the way the Detroit Red Wings are playing right now, I got to throw him back out there. Emmitt, Finnie of the Detroit Red Wings, rostered now at 34%, 9 games into the season, 8 points, 17 shots on net. And this is a guy, a 19-year-old rookie who has already shown some elite scoring, especially in the juniors last year where he played with the Kamloops Blazers. He had 84 points in 55 games. 37 of those points were goals. So this is a player that I really suggest in the way that he's playing right now. Again, early, small sample size with the Detroit Red Wings. He's played phenomenal. 8 games, 8 points, just over 16 minutes of average ice time. He uses his speed. He uses his size. He's a young forward who has that knack and, scoring instinct, as we've seen already so far this season. He's getting top 6 power play, top 6 minutes with that top line. He's getting top power play time as well because Patrick Kane is still out of the lineup. He could be a very good sleeper at this upside. You know, the risk, the caveat with this player is he's still earning his stripes. And again, when Patrick Kane comes back, he should be knocked down to the second power play unit in Kane's return. So maybe his ice time will fluctuate from time to time. The power play role is not guaranteed, like I just suggested. However, as of right now, he has been rock solid for the Detroit Red Wings, and that was a incredible comeback win over the St. Louis Blues. 6 unanswered goals. They were down 4-0. He gets one of them as well. So I would suggest Emmitt, Finnie this week. Just again, real quick, 4 games for the Red Wings: St. Louis Blues, LA Kings, Anaheim Ducks, and San Jose Sharks. All of them are on the road, so they are on their Western Conference road trip to begin this week. However, pretty good schedule for the Red Wings as they play red hot right now.
Red Wings are tied for the 4th most goals in the Eastern Conference. Obviously, a 6-piece there over the weekend will help. They're playing good hockey. Emmitt, Finnie, kind of a reliable 2-way center. I like that you mentioned he's earning his stripes. The
Dual
ice
eligibility
time,
too.
and the deployment will also affect that. You mentioned it. Love what the Red Wings have cooking. It's early, but when Patty Kane comes back, that's going to be another angle to consider in terms of peripheral fantasy value quickly. And because Dylan Cousins is owned by Fantrax owners already over 80%, he's 50% owned on Yahoo. And how is that trade working out for the Buffalo Sabres right now, Steele? Josh Norris for Dylan Cousins, 9 points so far for Dylan Cousins. Ice time up to over 17 minutes, 26 shots on net, 31 hits. The guy's a beast. He doesn't catch my actual list because he's probably owned in your league. However, check right now while you're hearing me say this. If he's out there on Yahoo right now, only 49, that's an auto add and keep for me. My first player that will be out there for you on the waiver wire is Trevor Zegras. And this is early, and it's a couple of games into the season, Steele, but maybe Rick Tocchet was the coach that this kid needed. And I know 8 points in 8 games. I'm not saying he's returning to the 65-point player that he was in his best year in Anaheim, but I don't think 45, 50 points is out of this kid's realm, and therefore he is going to be a really good waiver wire target week-to-week stream. And right now, when I look, you mentioned the schedule. You mentioned Philadelphia playing pretty good hockey, come from behind victory against the Islanders on Saturday. Yep. Penguins, Predators, Flames, and Leafs. That's a sensational 4-game week for the Philadelphia Flyers. And my favorite part, I think about what I've been seeing from Trevor Zegras, Steele. Yeah, he popped his first 2 goals of the year, but it's the peripheral play. It's how he's fitting in with his line mates. On a line that has Christian Dvorak and Michkov, I'm kind of liking that as well, Steele. I know the power play time is on the second unit. Another attractive angle. Trevor Zegras is out there in your leagues, 15% on Yahoo, 60 on Fantrax. I think if you're going to take a look, this is the week right now at Trevor Zegras.
Yeah, 15% rostered on Yahoo right now, 8 points in 8 games, a great game against the Islanders in that comeback victory as well. And I think this is probably one of the best schedules this upcoming week. Very mixed bag, but you have a Toronto team that's struggling defensively. Calgary can't score goals themselves. Nashville and Pittsburgh can allow a lot of goals in frequency as well. Trevor Zegras on that third line with Christian Dvorak and Matvei Michkov. It's been pretty solid so far. And I don't think you're going to, the peripherals are not going to jump off the page with this player. Course. He's not going to get a ton of blocks. He's not going to get a ton of hits. Even the shots on goal have been pretty, have regressed over the last seasons. But this is still a player who can show his creative ability, his creative playmaking skills, his highlight reel talent. And, obviously there's been some struggles the last few seasons with injuries, mental capacity. This is a high risk, high reward player, but if his role is elevated, if he continues to get power play time and risk, maybe even some top 6 time, this is a boomer bust type of season for Trevor Zegras. And right now, like you said, 8 points in 8 games, you want to take advantage of a guy that is playing some pretty decent hockey with his new team. Connor Garland, for me, real quickly, is who I want to talk about as well. Rostered at 34%, 9 points in 9 games, 24 shots on net, only 3 games this week for the Vancouver Canucks, New York Rangers, St. Louis Blues, and Minnesota Wild. So this might be the best schedule, even though it's 1 game less. The New York Rangers continue to struggle on the road and at home. The Blues just gave up 6 straight goals to the Red Wings. They've been kind of up and down both offensively and defensively. And I'm not going to get into depth on the Minnesota Wild. That has been an atrocious road trip for them. However, Connor Garland has been pretty rock solid for the Vancouver Canucks. He had a decent season last year, 50 points in over in 81 games played. He's a trusted top 6 winger. He sees power play time. He even sees some penalty kill time. He's got high compete level, good shot volume, forechecks. He's a forechecker who drives the play, and just a kind of under the radar but dependable player. So I think he's a very safe add this week, especially if you need some steady point production and power play exposure. And for me, Connor Garland is just like one of those. He's like a backup generator in your fantasy lineup. Like if the electricity goes out with your top guys on your fantasy team, this is a guy that just, he's not going to be super flashy, but he comes back and saves the day somehow. So Connor Garland, for me, I think is a really good add this upcoming week.
The Vancouver Canucks sit in the bottom third in the league in terms of power play proficiency so far this season. 16% is the rate that they're clicking at right now. So you're not going to get a ton of power play love per se from the team overall. But Connor Garland is exactly, you broke that down very well, sir. So I'm just going to leave it at this. I think what you've seen from the Vancouver Canucks over the last 3 games, dropping 3 of them, is much more indicative of where this team will be overall by the end of the season. So be careful with how much you are investing into Vancouver Canucks, but you're so right, Steele. He's the perfect plug-and-play and a very reliable option. We'll fire out some more for you guys to consider the rest of this week, and make sure you stay tapped into the channel. We've got more content coming every single day through the week, Sunday through Thursday. We're here for you guys to make sure you're dominating your leagues. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. The NBA is also back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride that hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score the next basket to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving those new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 wager hits. Head to FanDuel.com today to sign up and play the game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. We really do appreciate all that love and support and the conversations we've been having on YouTube. So thank you so much for the interactions on there. Really do appreciate it. Flip, waiver wire Sundays. We're getting ready for week 4 matchups here. I'm going to throw it back over to you. Who is the next guy that you're looking to add this week? Again, very important week for some managers out there who have been struggling early on in the season.
So I think one of the clear surprises to start this season, there's a couple coming out of Pittsburgh, isn't there? Pittsburgh is 6-2-1. They are almost in first place in the Eastern Conference, and I know we're 10 games deep. But this team is proving that with Evgeny Malkin and Sidney Crosby, that they can still get it done. Evgeny Malkin's almost leading the NHL in points. I don't know if anyone saw that either. So there are some shocking things happening. He's got 14 points in 9 games. And that second line, he's playing with Anthony Mantha. And I know Anthony Mantha has been a very frustrating fantasy piece that had a couple of good years there in Detroit. And I was looking at his numbers, 48 points. You kind of looked at him as maybe a very reliable middle six kind of forward. That obviously hasn't panned out. But last year, Steele, 44 points in 74 games, obviously bounced around Washington and Vegas, Calgary in the last couple of seasons. He's been injured, but right now, on that second line, on the second power play, on a Pittsburgh team, kind of high risk, high reward once again, Steele. But this is a week-to-week stream for these players. I mentioned last week, I had some hold or add in keeps. These are definitely plug-and-play situations. Anthony Mantha, though, 4 goals, 4 assists, 5 hits, 5 block shots, and he's playing with a red-hot Evgeny Malkin on that wing. I think that's all that needs to be said. I'll say a few more things. 19% on Fantrax, 2% on Yahoo. He plays the Blues, Flyers, Wild, and Jets this week. Mixed bag, but those first couple and a Wild team struggling right now a little bit. Pretty good week for the Pittsburgh Penguins to at least keep rolling a little bit here. If you need a forward, this week, Anthony Mantha is at the top of my list.
They have been a big surprise to the start of this season. We all thought that they were going to be in the hunt for Gavin McKenna at the next year's draft, and they just completely did a 180 on us. Like, hey, we're gonna be a Stanley Cup contending team this year.
Whoa!
And that's the way they're starting off right now. I've talked about Justin Brazeau as well. So alongside Anthony Mantha, I'm going to throw his name out there too, just because he's on that line with Evgeny Malkin and Mantha. 9 points in 9 games. 15 shots, 10 blocks, 14 hits. He's filling out all the peripheral value that you would want. He's been on one of my teams. I believe he's on my casual league team in our listener leagues here, Flip. So I want to throw him out. I'm also going to talk about another Pittsburgh Penguin later in the episode. However, let's stay in the Metropolitan Division. I want to talk about the New York Islanders because they too also have a pretty decent week and some guys that are very much available across different platforms here. Simon Holmstrom and Emil Heineman of the New York Islanders. Let's start off with Holmstrom, though. 1% rostered on Yahoo, 8 games played so far this season, 5 points, 9 shots on goal. This is not a guy that is going to jump off the page peripherally. However, he has had a pretty good hot streak over the last 3 games. He has 5 points in his last 3 games so far this season, 4 games for the New York Islanders as well. Boston, Carolina, Washington, and Columbus. So again, a little bit of a mixed bag, a lot of metropolitan matchups and Eastern Conference matchups this week for the New York Islanders. Holmstrom, though, he had 45 points in 75 games last year, just under 17 minutes of average ice time. He has a more prominent elevation role with the New York Islanders this season. He's playing top line minutes in stretches, some power play usage increasing. He's got a big frame, good shot. He's an emerging two-way improvement player as well. So I think he could also be a solid add for someone who wants a forward with upside and somewhat growing role. That can also be said for Emil Heineman, who's rostered at 10% on Yahoo right now. Big winger, showing flashes of scoring ability. He's been noted for offensive flashes so far this season. He's on that top line with Jonathan Drouin and Bo Horvat.
There you go.
This season as well. He's getting increased usage of power play time, so he could be a big surprise this upcoming week. The caveat with this player, less proven, lower time on ice currently, more of a depth target, bench, and stash type of player than an immediate impact star. That's why we talk about him on the waiver wire ads for this week. He's just a sleeper, and he had a really good game against the Islanders as well. He throws his body around, 35 hits so far this season. He's got 6 points in 8 games. So those are 2 players as well that I'm looking at, Simon Holmstrom and Emil Heineman of the New York Islanders, 2 guys that have some offensive upside, but also can fill, especially Emil Heineman, can fill out those peripherals and banger league cats.
Interesting that we always talk about the New York Islanders as a team that needs to find offense. They're tied for 5th in the NHL this year in goals for steal with 30 through 8 games. And I know that doesn't exactly jump off the page, but it's indicative, I think, of the value you're getting in some of these forwards, at least right now.
100%.
And that's where we're at week 4 is you really, and I say this all the time, and I've even been a victim of myself the past week. I've been super busy in my personal life. You need to be in the lineup, in the lab every single day, dedicate at least 15, 20 minutes
Finger
to
on
diving
the pulse.
into this. Pardon me. Thank you. Finger on. There you go. I say it all the time. I don't even listen to my own advice at times, and that shoots me in the foot. However, we're not going to do that with another one of these players. I got 2 more to go here, Steele. Mason Lohrei is a player that I've had my eye on for a couple of years, and I know 33 points last year, a minus 43 rating isn't going to jump off the page. Triple digits in block shots. He is a really good defenseman. And the Boston Bruins, I know where they are at in the standings, and it's still, 8 points through 10 games. To me, that's still pretty average and better than what I thought Boston was going to be, is what I'm trying to spit out. Mason Lohrei this week, the Boston Bruins have the Sens, Islanders, and Sabres, and wrap it up with the Canes. So aside from the Canes, I give them a good shot in all 3 of those games, 40% on Fantrax, 5% on Yahoo. He is a player that is on the second power play unit, second pairing. He is getting 18 plus minutes of ice time a night, which I think is going to go up. 1 goal, 5 assists, 14 block shots. Adding blue liners to your team is a fickle situation. And when I see a week that I like for the Boston Bruins and a D-man that I think has a ton of skill, he already has 6 points. I say this is a perfect week-to-week blue line stream for you. You add him this week, he does nothing. You dump him and replace him. However, if he does, the Boston Bruins have another favorable week coming up. I forget the teams, but it was looking pretty good. I like Mason Lohrei a lot, Steele, and I think this kid is going to get even more minutes, meaning more value.
3-point night against the Colorado Avalanche the other day. Some primary, some secondary assists. Really good addition for this week. Not to toot my own horn as well, but Morgan Geekie's been off to a great start.
Boom.
6 goals. 6 goals, 8 points in 10 games. He's got 4 goals in the last 3. So that's a player. Again, Boston needs some secondary scoring. They're getting it right now from Morgan Geekie, and Pavel Zacha should be included in this conversation as well. He's got 9 points, I believe, in 10 games too. When we come back after the break, some final waiver wire suggestions for week 4 matchups on the Locked On Fantasy Hockey podcast. But first, this episode is also brought to you by Game Time. Hockey season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real, getting tickets can be a total headache between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout. It's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. That's where Game Time comes in, the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. Take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, and go. And once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review for your boys here, Flip Livingstone and Steel Roden.
Thank you.
Last player, actually, I've got 4 players here, but one is there's only one of them that I truly want to talk about. I'm just going to suggest the other guys. They're all goaltenders, and there's some significant takes here with them. First off, I told you I was going to talk about the Pittsburgh Penguins again. Tristan Jarry of the Pittsburgh Penguins, rostered at 21%. We've already done an episode about the goalie carousel that has been taking place early on in this season. 3 wins, 1 loss, a shutout for Tristan Jarry. 4 games this week: St. Louis Blues, Philadelphia, Minnesota, and Winnipeg, like you said earlier on in the episode. But Tristan Jarry, he's been very solid. They've actually got some really solid goaltending from both Jarry and Sheilov so far this season. Tristan Jarry is currently rocking a .921 save percentage, a 2.52 goals against average in the first 4 games. He should be getting at least 2 of those 4 games this upcoming week, if not 3 of them, because he has been really solid for the Pittsburgh Penguins. However, I also want to suggest some other goaltenders that are potentially coming back or have already come back. Joseph Woll will be making his return to the Leafs organization in the sometime this week as well. He's currently rostered at 35%. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen has made his return for the Buffalo Sabres. He's rostered at 30% right now, and he played in that first game in that 4-3 overtime loss to the Toronto Maple Leafs over the weekend, as well as his goalie partner, Alex Lyon, rostered at 30% as well. I believe you might have talked about him last week too. But those are 4 goaltenders that I would suggest for this upcoming week as Joseph Woll returns, especially for him. We kind of heard comments that Anthony Stolarz was icing both of his knees after that game over the weekend. So Joseph Woll is going to be a crucial part for this Leafs organization trying to bounce back. We know that they have struggled in October over the past 4, 5, 6 seasons. So they always kind of start off slow, and Joseph Woll is going to help them kind of turn the tables around. But those are 4 goaltenders that I'm looking at for this upcoming week.
Yeah, let's not get back into what's going on with the Toronto Maple Leafs. They got very lucky, I would say, to get let off the hook there on Saturday against the Buffalo Sabres. Come from behind wins. But this team really just needs to figure it out. However, I love all of those options that you've thrown out there. I was saying filling a defensive spot is fickle. Don't get me started on the blue paint. However, I got to tighten it up myself, Steele. And I like talking about these Columbus Blue Jackets. Kent Johnson started slow. This is a guy we've talked about a lot on waiver wire episodes, and it's clear peripheral love you're not getting from this guy. This is a purely offensive player that you're adding for goals and assists, maybe some shots on net. 2 goals, 2 assists over his to start this season. All of those coming in the last 4 games. He's picking up steam. Now, what I really like, second line with Boone Jenner, my boy, and Adam Fantilli. Love that. Love even more, Steele. Top power play time, Werenski, Marchenko, Monahan, Voronkov, and Kent Johnson. What I like even more, this week's schedule for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Sabres, Leafs, Islanders, and Blues. It's a really good schedule for this team, and they haven't even started clicking yet offensively. I know the Blues are the Blues, the Islanders. All 4 of those teams for me are all very average right now. So I think this is a good week for the Columbus Blue Jackets. 20% on Yahoo, higher on Fantrax, much higher, 70% on Fantrax. However, I think he's probably going to be out there in most leagues. I like Kent Johnson this week. I like the Columbus Blue Jackets as well. And I do have a 3-leg same-game parlay, Steele, if you want me to pop that off for Sunday.
Yeah, hit us with it.
For our fellow degenerates out there. This LA Kings team, we've spoken about how Anze Kopitar was hurt. We spoke about Darcy Kemper hurt. He's back. They are very run-of-the-mill this year, 3-3-3. Even the record indicates as such. But Adrian Kempe has been cooking. Couple of game winners already. 12 points in 9 games. He's near the top of the league there. I just really like this player. Goals in 3 straight games, and he's starting to fire the biscuit. So give me the Kings on the money line into Chicago. I believe they're 7-1-2 in their last 10 against Chicago. Give me the Kings. Hit me with the over 5.5, and I love my lock of the night, Adrian Kempe, 3+ shots on net. None of these are really juicy odds steal, but if you smash those 3 together, I believe you're getting paid out at almost 4-1 on your money. So this is a perfect little $25 wager, or if you had some success over the weekend, don't be shy. I love this spot for the Kings. I love this spot for a red-hot Kempe, and I think this one goes over the number. I could see 4-2 with an empty netter all day long.
I love the over 5.5. I love the Adrian Kempe 3+ shots. However, I would actually go personally with the Blackhawks on the money line at home. This is the second game of a back-to-back for the LA Kings. So I'm actually going to take a page out of Josh Ingles' books. And, he was talking about the Chicago Blackhawks the other day, and they popped off against the Tampa Bay Lightning and suck away with that win. I feel comfortable enough with the Blackhawks at home in this situation. Like you said, it's been a run-of-the-mill season for the LA Kings, 3-3-3. Defensively, the additions they made, Cody Ceci, Dumoulin, all those guys, hasn't really panned out yet. However, maybe another waiver wire ad actually could be Corey Perry. He's been off to a great start since returning from his injury for the LA Kings. However, I do like the player prop from Adrian Kempe. That's probably my favorite out of the bunch. Maybe we do a side bet for this game tonight, Flip.
Let's talk.
Those are the waiver wire suggestions for week 4 matchups. That's the same game parlay for Sunday night evening game. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night, until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale, and you can find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. And we'll see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.